So when you are ready, we'll begin.
Is it what? No, he said 10. Good afternoon, Mr. President and members of the board. My name is Janelle Gasso. I'm an attorney at Purdue Brandon. Joining me here today is Mr. Idam Gutierrez and several of our staff members from that make up the Mercedes ISD team. Our team is made up of dedicated and hardworking individuals. Some of our employees have been with Purdue Brandon since we opened up our office here in the Rio Grande Valley in 2007. We have an experienced multilingual collection center and an exceptional litigation department. When experience, reputation, and performance matter, Purdue Brandon is the right choice for your delinquent tax attorney services. So let me tell you a little bit about Purdue Brandon. We have 15 offices in Texas and multiple satellite locations. We have an office in Brownsville and McAllen. We have 57 licensed attorneys. And in addition to the Mercedes ISD team that you see here on your screen, we have over 400 support staff nationwide. Such a vast network of employees allows us to meet our clients' needs both professionally and accurately. We have an excellent network base at our disposal. In addition to Mr. Gutierrez and I, we have Enrique Peña out of our Brownsville office, who is joining us here today. Melissa Valdez handles our bankruptcy department. Carl Sandin, title research. And Mr. Jason Bailey, our executive committee chair. Altogether, our attorneys have 850 combined years of experience in delinquent tax collection services. Purdue Brandon believes in giving back to the school districts and communities that we serve. We believe supporting local organizations and initiatives helps build stronger, more vibrant communities, and districts such as the Mercedes ISD Superintendent Scholarship Fund and Mercedes Youth Sports, just to name a few. So let's talk about why you should choose Purdue Brandon for your delinquent tax services. We like to call this the Purdue Brandon Advantage. Purdue Brandon has been in business longer than our competitor. We've been in the business for 54 years. We offer premier customer service. One key factor that sets us apart from our competitor is our attorney-to-client ratio. Here in our McAllen office, we have an attorney-to-client ratio of 1 to 4. With an attorney-to-client ratio of 1 to 4, each client receives the individualized attention and dedicated service that they deserve. Our team of attorneys can focus more time and resources on each case. In contrast, our competitor has an attorney-to-client ratio of 1 to 18 versus ours 1 to 4. And the last and most important advantage in hiring Purdue Brandon is that Purdue Brandon has a history of higher collection rates, especially here in Mercedes ISD. Mr. Gutierrez will show you more about that here in a bit. But first, let's talk about the tax collection process. Purdue Brandon has an effective collection process. We work with your taxpayers throughout the entire collection process. When we first obtain your delinquent tax roll, we conduct research on each one of your taxpayers. We do what's called a contact campaign. We use various resources to attempt collection through letters, phone calls, emails, and even site visits. If the taxpayer refuses to pay, we proceed with litigation. Filing a lawsuit is always last resort. We don't want to put your taxpayer through it unless it becomes necessary. But our collection efforts do not stop there. We still try to work with your taxpayer during the litigation process. Our last resort is moving forward with tax sale. Here again, we work with your taxpayer during this process, and we try to come up with solutions such as a payment agreement. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gutierrez, who's going to show you some very interesting statistics here in Mercedes ISD. Thank you.
Good evening, Ms. Venecia, President Garcia, and honorable members of the board. As Janelle pointed out early, the most important advantage in hiring Purdue Brandon is our history of higher collection rates, especially right here in Mercedes ISD. This bar graph illustrates the last 5 fiscal years of collections here at Mercedes ISD, delinquent tax collections. On the far left, in bold red, that represents collections under our competitor back in 2018-2019. That year, your collections ended in the teens, 19.54%. The following year, you hired Purdue Brandon, and collections shot up 6 percentage points. That was a transition year. The following year, in blue, that represents Purdue's collections alone. As you can see, collections continued at a strong 24.33%. Unfortunately, in 2021, the district decided to switch back to our competitor with promises of even better collections. But as you can see there in the graph, the collections started to drop. The first year, the transition year, collections dropped. The following year, in bold red, the last fiscal year that just ended in September of 23, your collections dropped even further, almost for 4% lower than the collections, the all-time high when Purdue was involved. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, where are we now? Maybe we're doing better. Unfortunately for the district, the collections continue to spiral downward. This report here comes from your tax office, the last collection report as of the end of June. 10 months of your fiscal year have already gone through, and your collections, I'm sorry to say, have dropped another 2%. 2% less for your teachers, 2% less for your students, 2% less for your staff, 2% more less for Mercedes ISD. Fact is, since our competitor took over collections at Mercedes ISD, the district has lost out on tens of thousands of dollars in revenue. Mercedes ISD deserves better. Mercedes ISD has been taken for granted. Purdue Brandon is the right choice for Mercedes ISD. We are ready and committed to work hard for the district like we've done in the past and bring you results and not excuses. Thank you. That concludes our presentation, and I'd like to open it up for any questions you may have.
I will start on my left again. Mr. Howell, do you have any questions, sir?
No, sir.
Mr. Martinez? Mrs. Delgado?
Yeah.
Mr. Hernandez, do you have any questions, sir?
No.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you have any questions?
Mr. Gutierrez, you mentioned a transition year twice, in 2019-20 and 2021-22.
Yes. And that year, in 2019-2020, you switched over to Purdue. We were there part of the year, but so was the competitor. So I can't take credit for all of those collections that year. The solid blue, that was all our firm. Then you transitioned back to our competitor, so both firms were involved in the collections that year. But as you can see, when we came involved, collections went up. When they came back, collections dropped.
So does the service period that your firm had with the district was not necessarily coinciding with the fiscal?
With the fiscal year, no, it's, we came on board, I think we got a 1-year contract with extensions of 1 year, and then midway, I think on our 3rd year, we were, went out back for proposals. And
The fiscal year.
the fiscal year, September through August, your fiscal year, September through August. So all of these collection stats are September through August, in line with your fiscal year. And by the way, these collection numbers come from the tax office. They're not something that I created. It comes directly. I'm sure you have the reports. You get your annual reports every year. You see what your collections are. You look back at your annual report for the last fiscal year, you'll see those stats in that report.
I do have 2 questions.
Yes, Mr. Castillo.
The first one is in the transition year that Mr. Rodriguez was talking about. What contributed to the increase that landed us at 25.5%? Was there a specific or significant collection that we brought in? Were you just, were there several collections that were made throughout the year? What brought that up?
Well, it's not one individual account. It's simply we got to work. Went straight to work, working hard for the district, working at all the accounts, calling people, visiting people, and it works.
So,
I'm sorry.
on top of that, my follow-up question to that is, that 25%, how much of that was Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Motts versus
Yeah.
Linebacker, Goggin, Wood, and Sampson?
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly what the percentages are.
It's 8 out of 12 months.
No, you want to know what percentage of the total amount was
Yes,
Purdue?
it was Purdue.
Yeah, I don't have those exact amounts. I mean, it's, the other thing that I want to specify, what happens when a new firm comes in, they take over all the accounts that are not in litigation. The firm that's there continues to work all the litigation accounts for an additional 6 months.
Okay.
And then, of course, there were months during the year, let's see, we were there 8 months out of the year, so our competitor was there for 4 months fully. So and I can't tell you exactly how much was us, how much was them, but obviously, there was a lot that wasn't being worked. As you can see, back the year prior to that, collections were 19.54. It goes back to what Ms. Caso said. It's having the resources supplied to you. So what if you've got 2,000 employees somewhere else and whatever, who is working on your account? And with an attorney-client to ratio of 1 to 4, one attorney for 4 clients, you're able to give the client the attention that it needs.
And what can you contribute on the next slide that you have here? What do you contribute that 2% decrease to?
Well, I think simply the answer to that is the account is just not being worked properly. You've been taken for granted. It's on automatic. And as you can see, collections continue to drop. If you actually see, the roll actually grew a little bit, and instead of collecting more, you're collecting less, a smaller percentage of the roll. The only simple explanation to that is it's not being worked properly. More resources need to be applied to this collections.
Okay, can you talk to me a little bit about reimbursements from our delinquency account on property protest reimbursements? Those.
Yeah. Well, protests occur all the time. We have them all the time. We have a lot of protests in West Local ISD, but we've dealt with it. West Local ISD, our collections are actually up compared to last year, regardless of all these protests that we're having. Yes, there's a lot of protests, but you just have to work it harder.
On the prior graph, is there any way you can switch it back?
Yeah.
Okay. So the 24.33, was that you guys a full year?
Yes. Yeah. We were there during that whole fiscal year.
A full year?
Just us during that whole fiscal year.
And then in 2021, 2022, you would not be able to provide a breakdown between you and,
What they collected, we can't collect it. The only thing I can tell you is that we were there 11 months out of the fiscal year. Of course, the other firm was there as well, handling the non-litigation accounts for the last 7 months.
I don't have any other questions. Do I have any other questions from the board?
okay, so in 2021, that's when you guys got reassigned,
Terminated in 2021.
that took place on what month?
I think it was,
Was it November?
no, it was towards the middle of 2021, maybe June, maybe May, June. Yeah.
Okay, on that 23%, you can't break down how much of that work was yours, or can you?
No, I don't have that information in front of me, but You know, I think what's significant is when we came on board, collection shot up. They came on board, collections started to drop. They took full control of your account, collections dropped even further.
Good? Thank you all so much, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to be here before you today.
And next, we're gonna be moving on to, presentations for the Security Guard Services RFP 0603244402. Mrs. Garza.
Yes, we have presentations from L4, MLG Protection Services, and Prime Time Protection. The first one will be L4.
We're gonna go ahead and give around 5 minutes for the presentation. Are you good?
Sure, you can,
And we will keep the 3 minutes up here for
not a
for
problem.
questions, alrighty? And whenever you're ready, sir, you'll be.
All right, I'd like to thank the board member here this evening for having us to give the presentation. You all know me, been here before. So those who don't, just a little bit about us. We were founded in 2019, so we've been operating for approximately 5 years. Going on 6 and going strong. We've increased the number of guards that we had throughout the states that you can see here: Arkansas, Indiana, Oklahoma, Southern California, Tennessee, just to say. And we are expanding. So we support a lot of people. And a little bit about our owners, Buddy Blair and John Blanton. They have, both of them, between the two, they have very extensive law enforcement. So let me move that, which is, how do I move on here? Okay, we go. I'm sorry, that's them, as you can see there. Wait a minute. There it is. Okay. And the next slide here is what you see of our staff right now. This is who we have that are in our main directory. And as a little background on myself, I was prior military, been over 24 years. I do have extensive leadership within the military and also in the background of logistics, basically management too, especially for security. Becoming part of the community is the real key for us here, okay? Especially for Mercedes. We've been with you for several years. The real key is getting a good team in the district, okay? Without a good team, and for you guys to like our guards, I mean, it is a bonding thing. It's basically we get good people put into place. They do the job very well. That's what we strive for. We strive for excellence, okay? And we will bend over backwards for any of our clients. Whatever they need, we will do, okay? And to the best of our ability. The team is the key to any of our clients. Our trainer, Barry Blair, he's our director. He has multiple backgrounds in training. He does all of our, first shooting initiatives, emergency actions, and also handled with care. All our guards is trained in especially handle with care and active shooting, especially for our level 3s. Okay? You know, hands-on safety scenario. Everything's all based on real world. Okay, we even also have our own academy. Our guards have all of this available to them, all the training throughout our academy. We do annual training. Everyone stays on top of everything, first aid, AED, active shooting, and with handle with care. It is a yearly thing that we have our guards accomplish. So they're not lacking in any area. They, too fast there. They've been vetted by us. We go about 7 years, and plus they also vet it through the state of Texas, through the Texas DPS. So if they don't pass their background, they cannot work for us. As you can see, yeah, the background checks must be a must for any school district, especially for your guys' Mercedes. We want to make sure that they're pretty safe, as an employee. These are some of the places that are entrusted by us. You see Mercedes, we are entrusted with Westlaco, Harlingen, and also in Portland, okay? We also have, it's not there, but we also help with Donna ISD, which you don't see there. We also have them. And also, you see right down there, Accenture, Call Center, Camping World, as you can see, all the other non-school districts. Okay, that's what I figured.
Now we'll open it up to the board members, if anyone have any questions. Mr. Howe? No. Mr. Martinez? Mrs. Delgado?
Yes. How many security officers do you currently have for Mercedes?
For Mercedes, we should have about, not including the on-calls, staffing-wise, I think we have about 40.
We had you last year?
Yes, we had you last year, and the year before that, we were just doing the events only. You guys had MLG, then when it came up to the open for bid, then we stepped in to do everything.
Of these 40, how many are your actual day, school, during the school hours? Because you also have patrol unit, patrol.
Yes, we also have the patrol units.
Is that included in the 40?
Yes, that's also included.
I have a question, Mr. Chen. You're gonna have football, you're gonna have Saturday, extracurricular activities. I know the board's very concerned about overtime. How do you address or?
Yeah, as we always done. Overtime, it will be covered by us if it's not requested by the school. Okay? If the school requires a guard to stay for extra hours, then yes, you guys will be charged the overtime. We haven't yet charged Mercedes any overtime.
Okay, so you adjust the 40 hours?
We adjust the 40 hours, we will pay the overtime.
Okay, because I'm just thinking that we don't want to incur a liability that we're going to have to pay the overtime.
Yeah, we generally didn't do it this year because we did extra, because we had the daytime guards help us out to cover like the football events, any after-school events. We had them cover, we paid their overtime. So this way we won't accrue any overtime for you guys.
I'm going to ask legal advice on this one here.
Mhm.
I'm going to look at all the competitors, so I'm not going to pick, choose. Mr. Salinas, so we don't incur any liability if they have overtime? That's only on them, right?
It depends on the contract.
Okay.
The employee is, the employer, the actual employer who the employee works for is responsible for the overtime. Now, that employer can shift that responsibility contractually to someone else if that contract so specifies.
So we're going to look into that, Mr. Garcia?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Lam. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chen?
Yes.
In terms of responding to guards that don't show up to work, what would you say is your average response time to fill in that slot? If a campus calls in and says, Mr. Chen, I'm down one guard, didn't show up, or called in that he's sick, what's your response time to fill that?
To fill that spot, usually it's between an hour to 2 hour max. sometimes even shorter. It all depends on how fast we can get in touch and the travel time.
So you have the extra personnel that can.
That's correct. I do have extra guards standing by, which is what I call our on-call staffing.
And how many vehicles at night do you have patrolling?
Just one.
Is it just one throughout the entire day?
Yeah, because normally during the school year, they are only patrolling at night, a 12-hour shift, Monday through Friday. Then we have a 24-hour staffing on the weekends, 12 hours on the day, then 12 hours in the evening. Then with the off-season during the summer, yes, it is 24/7.
How do you monitor, on your patrol units as to what locations they're at? You know,
GPS.
and-
We keep them in check. We do have them do a scan, because every campus has a, what we call an NFC tag. This way it keeps them in check, and it keeps our company in check, signifying that for the school district, that the guards are not just parked all night in one location. They have to go from each location and scan, like every hour, on the hour, every 2 hours. They have to go to those points and scan. And if they don't, then we know that they're not doing their jobs. And we do get a report daily.
And when you mean scan, it's not in their vehicle, they have to go to a location?
They have to go physically out, and then I have them on the main gates or at the front entrance of each campus. They have to physically get out, use their phone, scan the tag, and the program on their app, records their scans.
Their location.
Yeah, their location, and it has each location and what time they scan their tags.
And is it just to go in and scan, or is there a perimeter?
Yeah,
check
they're supposed to do their
perimeter
perimeter check.
checks?
Yeah, they're supposed to do everything, sit there for a bit just to make sure, everything's okay. We just don't want them to go there, scan, do a quick check and leave. We also tell them to change it up instead of having a pattern. This way, if someone is monitoring their, they don't want to have a good pattern.
Is the night watchman checking access doors to the campuses to make sure that they are locked?
That is correct. Yeah, they're supposed to do all the perimeter checks, all gates are locked, and they have a set of keys to, if the gates are locked, they also do a report saying, hey, they found a gate or a door unlocked. They notify me, then I also notify Mr. Chacon that there was a door unlocked.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Next, we'll have MLG Protection Services. I believe we're gonna go get them.
We didn't ask him. Cadence. It should be in the proposal, but we'll ask this.
Mr. Chen, could you and your security officer maybe swap with MLG in the front so that we can have confidentiality amongst the children?
Not a problem.
Should ask her before.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Superintendent, Mr. President, board members of the,
Before we start, we're gonna have about
sorry.
5 minutes for the presentation, and then we have 3 minutes apiece for questions.
okay.
Whenever you need it.
Thank you so much. My name's Armando Garza. I am the owner of MLG Protection Services. And our main goal is to provide the best possible service we can as a uniform services division. So protecting the public is very important to us. We've been doing this a long time. Over 10 years, we've been in business. We have several school districts, Horizon Montessori. We have La Feria ISD, Sherland ISD, or RGV College. Southwest ISD, we've been there 3 years. Sherland, we've been there 10 years. So it's very important to us, the uniform presence for a security guard. Uniform presence is so important to us that the majority of our guards have to shave, tattoos, they have to cover their face, as far as any kind of beards, or they can only wear a mustache, cover tattoos. Presence is very important to us because when you're in uniform, you have to look professional, in our opinion. So we strive on that. Like I said, we've been there 10 years. I am a fellow officer from McAllen PD. I did 28 years of service with McAllen PD in the sheriff's office. I'm a mass shooter. I went to massive shooter instructor school, de-escalation of force, contraband. I do have a degree in criminal justice. And all our guards go through a training through me, which is stop the bleeder, number one, and number two, the tourniquet training, which is very important to us. All our guards are going to be carrying tourniquets no matter where they're at. So it's very important that we continue with that. All our guards also go through continuing education course. I'm sorry, guys, I didn't introduce. This is Velma Garcia. She runs my office. She's the chief of staff. I didn't introduce her to her. Sorry about that. But it's very important that all these guards are trained in stop the bleeder and with tourniquet training. That is so important to us because we don't know if anything can happen. We want to be prepared for that, okay? So why pick us? We're the largest company in the Valley. We do employ over 350 employees right now. At any given moment, we can deploy 5, 6, 7, 8 guards if needed. If something happens, we can deploy them and get them there. I also have my FFL, Federal Firearms License, which I can issue guns to any of my guards that I want. So that's why. We are available 24/7, 365 days a week. We do have
A year, 365 days a year.
a year. We also have patrol cars. We have 7 patrol cars. We drug test every month all our guards, and we run background checks through FBI all our guards. And we do also have a psychological test that we give them now. It's a 20-question questionnaire that was developed by one of our psychologists. All our level 3s are now, under DPS rule, they got to go through an MMPI, which is like psychological test. Like any police officer, they have to go through an MMPI test, and they have to pass it. It's paid by us. If they don't finish that MMPI, they cannot be security level 3 officers carrying a gun. Okay, we also have a K-9 available to us. Denzel's been with us for about 8 years now. He's available to deploy at any time. We use him a lot in Sherland. Paul is an ex-ranger from the United States Army. He runs the K-9 division in our company. And hey, I need a K-9 to search the school or whatever, uniform presence, we usually deploy them. We use it a lot at South Texas ISD, and Sherland, and La Feria. We use the dog a lot there. So I haven't been in business, like I said, for over 10 years. I started this company after I retired from McAllen PD, and I am a level 2, level 3, and level 4 instructor. Level 2 means no gun. Level 3 means commission, they carry guns. And personal protection officers we don't use a lot of bodyguards in schools right now. That's Paul right there. He is a K-9 officer. Like I told you, he's been with me since I opened my doors. Paul has been with me for all those years. So we do provide our own classroom training. I do have my own firing range, which I use quarterly. I want everybody to qualify quarterly, and I want everybody to be precise in carrying weapons. That's very important. Like, you can't just give a weapon to anybody and have them, be precise in it because they may not know what they're doing. So if I see somebody does not function the way I want them to function, as me as an instructor, firearms instructor, I do not pass them, and they will not carry a gun in any capacity in my company. So we do have an auditorium that's available to us that we train. We like to bring everybody in there. Quarterly, or whenever we have days off, I think Labor Day's coming, we bring everybody in. Hey, guys, let's go train on this, and this. And we usually, spend time with them, trying to teach them the important things about being a guard, okay?
Yes, yes. Sorry. How many, what are the districts are you in? I apologize.
No, no problem. Yes,
I know
ma'am.
you probably put it in here.
We're in, La Feria ISD, we're in South Texas ISD, we're in Sugarland ISD, Horizon Montessori Public Schools here in the Valley and in Houston, and RGV College.
And you mentioned earlier you have 7 patrol units, you have 7 cars?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry,
Marked patrol.
sorry?
Marked, they're marked.
They're
like,
marked, okay,
yes.
marked patrol. Okay. And you said you had 350 employees?
Yes, ma'am.
Here.
In all in the
South
valley.
Texas?
Well, we have
Throughout.
about 4 in Houston, 4 or 5 in Houston, but the majority, they're here in the
And the
valley.
reason we have Houston is because they have 3 schools in the valley and 1 in Houston, so the contract was all complete. So that's why we have 4 in Houston,
Yes.
4 officers.
Aside from that, because we have South Texas ISD and they're located here in Mercedes as well, we have several supervisors. So we have 2 or 3 supervisors in this area and then 2 or 3 over there in McAllen Mission area because of the school districts. We also have City of McAllen, that's a monster, City of Mission, City of Edinburgh, you know, a lot of, so we keep the supervisors over there and we keep, 2 to 3 on this side. They're just patrolling and just watching all the schools. And they'll be here around this area because we have health professions and we have Science Academy that are here in Mercedes as well.
So you also patrol those, you also patrol those areas, so there's quite a few for 7 mobile patrols.
Not all 7 are used at the same time.
Yes, no, of
Yeah.
course, but you are during the week, right?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
have what are their shifts, 12 hours, 8 hours?
8 hours, usually it's 8 hours.
8 hours.
Mhm. So we have a 24-hour patrol. So we have like 24/7, 365, like we was saying. So we have our day patrol and we have our night patrol. So they don't use their cars at the same time.
And how many, would you be able to accommodate what we have right now as far as security officers during the day? Would you be able to accommodate that?
Oh, yes,
number?
ma'am.
And do you have canine services?
Yes, ma'am.
How many do you have?
We got 1.
And do you, is that also like not at a moment's notice, but like within a week's notice? Are you
It
able
can
to
be at a moment's
schedule?
notice.
I know before, in the past, we've had some issues where we've required it and we've had to look elsewhere, maybe our local law enforcement.
We would be able to suffice that for the contract at maybe within the hour.
Is it included in your contract?
No, because they didn't ask for it. They didn't ask for that price for the contract, but, I mean, we can always accommodate you guys, so we accommodate Sherryland, La Feria, and all those within the hour, because he's housed mainly in Sherryland, in the Mission area, but it's about an hour, away, so it shouldn't be.
Right now, we have because Sherlyn went out for bid for canine services, we have Sherlyn right now. We do not have South Texas ISD, but they call us and we go, and we charge you an hourly rate.
An hourly rate, so
Yes,
it's charged.
we do.
Yes.
$150 an hour.
Yes.
The Denzel, the canine, is certified in narcotics, firearms, and ammo. He gets certified yearly in Bernie. He's from Bernie, Texas.
$150 an hour?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Or, any other, go ahead, sir, I'm
I
sorry.
got a quick question. Overtime,
There we go.
we're gonna have to actually fit the bill on the
No, sir.
overtime,
We
or
pay
that's all
overtime.
encompassed?
No, sir.
It's all part of the contract.
We pay all our employees overtime, is required by law, and we W-2 them. We also have health insurance for them now. If they want insurance, we provide health insurance for them also. Overtime is on us.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Thank you.
And this would, and you'd break it off into shifts, 8-hour, 12-hour shifts that people can monitor with their patrol unit overnight
Yes, we
as
have
well?
7 in the day supervisors that all they do is supervise.
The
Hey,
different contracts.
get off your phone. Hey, do this. Hey, do that. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. It's like any other employee. You have to remind them constantly to be doing this. And we got a bunch of good ones right now that we weeded out a bunch of them that were not really to my expectations. So yeah, we got our 7 that constantly, hey, you're assigned to this, this, and this, and they do their job. Just to make sure that we got more eyes out there, to be visible.
Okay.
Where are you, where are you headquartered?
Mission.
Mission, Texas, Mission, Texas.
So I would think that you're located in Mission, more than likely most of your employees are from that area?
No,
That
actually,
area, do you have them?
actually, it's pretty much split even, because of La Feria and South Texas ISD, because we also have Brownsville, we have San Benito, we have Mercedes, quite a few in Mercedes, and La Feria, so it's kind of like split almost evenly, so.
Just to get a more clear, sorry, a more clear answer, nighttime security is provided to our district under
Oh,
the
yes,
contract?
Yes.
yes, it's in the contract, yes, sir.
Okay. Then I am good. I don't know if we have any other questions from the board. Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Were we gonna hear prime time or they, no? Okay, so then on 3 and 4, I believe there, at least I had questions regarding the contracts. Can we deviate from the agenda on items A, 3 and 4 and bring them back? And 5, I'm sorry, 3, 4, and 5, bring them back later on during the meeting? Can I have a motion to deviate for that?
I so move.
We have a motion, Mr. Hernandez, I have a second, Mr. Rodriguez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Number 6, discussion possible action to purchase a White Fleet T 250 van from Sames Ford Harlingen for the Maintenance Department Co-op contract number 724-23. Mrs. Venecia.
Administration is seeking approval. Mr. Herrera.
Good evening, Board President, Mrs. Valencia, trustees. At this time, we're requesting approval for the purchase of a TF-250 medium van for the maintenance department. Currently, we have 8 vans that we do have a lot of mechanical issues. They're 2008s, which makes them 15 years plus. And so we've had to, the need for the new purchase is needed. And so we're at the cost of the van is $49,265. It is part of our maintenance budget that was allocated previously. However, due to the shortage, we weren't able to purchase one last year, so the money was allocated for this year. And so the business office did initiate out there.
Now that you're here, we did follow the procurement process on getting this van?
For this particular purchase, because it's below $50,000, we did get the 3 quotes, so that's reflected in the information that was provided.
The correction for the cost is $49,904.
What's the mileage on the other van, the old one?
Their mileage isn't, it's not I would need to verify and provide that information. It doesn't have high mileage, however, the parts, they've exceeded the number of years that it's able to, it has constant breakdowns. Not sure what it's associated, but I'm sure it's due to the age of the vehicle. But I can provide the accurate mileage of our vans, so you can have it, not a problem.
Do we have any other questions?
Where are we buying this one from?
Sames Ford in Harlingen. Sames Ford in Harlingen.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we have a recommendation from the superintendent to approve. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Martinez.
Mr. President,
Yes,
sorry
sir.
to interject, but I will be abstaining from this item.
Okay. We do have a motion from Mr. Hernandez, a second from Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Please let the record reflect that Mr. Rodriguez did abstain from the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to B, Human Resources, 1, discussion and possible action to approve the 24-25 compensation plan. Mrs. Venecia,
Administration is seeking approval as presented.
do we have any questions?
I just have to have a comment really quick. I know there's a lot of talk around the community, and I'm sure every single one of us have gotten the phone calls. Try to be as delicate as I can because it's a very difficult situation that we're in, but I have the greatest confidence in Valencia and the staff that we can make things right. I just hope later on in the future, the board will look into and entertain an idea that, because not all the teachers, not all the staff, I don't want to put everybody in one sweet broom, just, I don't want to paint everybody the same. It's not. We need to reward the teachers that have that rigor in the classroom, the relationship that's there, and the relevancy. Those are the 3 R's that I understood from my mentors. They were really darn good teachers. And the sad thing about it, they were never recognized because they weren't buddies with the principals. They weren't buddies with the superintendent. They weren't relatives of a family, of a board member, et cetera, et cetera. And I hope that later on that we award them. Because I know there's some teachers that hit 70% on the star, even higher than that. And the compensation is going to be the same? I'm looking at the scores. I'm looking at the campuses. I'm looking at the teachers. I'll be honest, I'm going to call them out. 30% on the star? In mathematics or statistics, you don't even have to read that. I'll just flat out tell you, those are the students. Que vergüenza. That someone who goes out there, goes the extra mile, is going to get paid the same as somebody who just sits there and just get the 3 C's, the chair, the clock, and the check. I go, sometimes we got to call it out the way it is, There's an individual on social media, and she said it right. There's a combined almost 130 years of educational experience. And here we're at. This is where we're at. It's about academics first. And I hope the board later on, this is not the staff, this is not the students, this is not the superintendent, this is the board. We need to reward those teachers. The ones that don't get involved in the politics, don't call the board members, oh, my feelings are this and this and that. That's where I think we're gonna hit a good stride if we start doing that. Acknowledging the hard work. The bus drivers, the maintenance, outstanding. Those yards are cut. If there is something to be patched up, they're there. How can we have that same motivation, that some drive in the classroom as well? It's a culture. And that's all I say. I yield, Chairman.
I would, if I can just add, same sentiment as Mr. Hernandez. Receiving those phone calls, there are several people out there that are pretty shocked. And even, as we went over the compensation plan earlier. So they are pretty shocked as to how this is going to affect them. And yes, I am like, the way Mr. Hernandez feels, I think we all are. We know that they are deserving of this and much, much more. And we do need to. We do need to do a better job as a board to just say, let's see what we can do. And I know that your staff, you and your staff are working very, very hard. Ms. Garza, thank you so much for all the work. You're working very, very hard so that we can come up from this. And we will continue to work. We will continue to work, and any advice and any recommendation that you give to the board, definitely we will look into everything because we're going to make this right. Okay? So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
In terms of the compensation plan, I know that this board asked the superintendent and her staff to look at everything we could. I know they've already been making a lot of adjustments that have saved the district several $100,000 already. And we just need to continue because that'll translate into providing our staff those increases that they so deserve. So we'll continue to focus on those things. There's a couple of items coming up that we vote on, Lone Star Governance, that I think will also lend itself well for us as a board to focus on those important areas, the student achievement levels and so forth. But in terms of compensation, which is the item at hand, we wish we could provide more, and we're trying everything we can to save the dollars where we can, to provide the staff where it needs it.
Any other comments from the board? So do we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
Yes.
To approve, Mr.
All right. We do have a recommendation from the superintendent to approve. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Hernandez. All in favor? Vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to C, Governance 1. Discussion and possible action to approve Lone Star Governance Framework, the exemplar cohort, school year 24-25. Mrs. Venecia.
Administration is seeking approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have any questions for the superintendent? I do have one question. I do know that in one of the initial meetings, it was mentioned that there was a possibility of a grant to pay for all the Lone Star Governance
That's correct.
curriculum. Are we looking into applying for that or getting that grant?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, yes.
sounds good. If you could please keep us up to date so that this doesn't incur a cost on the district and we can benefit our students and staff. Okay, so we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A motion from Ms. Ayala. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same sign? The motion passes unanimously. Number 2, discussion and possible action on endorsing a candidate for the TASB Board of Directors, Region 1, Position A. This is a governance thing, so this is amongst us, the board. So there were 4 candidates that were put into our packet for consideration. Do any of our board members have a motion to endorse a candidate or not?
I could always,
Go ahead.
I was gonna suggest, Mr. Garcia, I think, being board president, you could do a fantastic job of recommending a couple of them. Leadership, sir.
I would second that, definitely.
Well, thank you. I was one of the 4 that was turned in, so I guess that's a motion from you, a good endorsement?
Yes.
Okay, we have an endorsement for Marcos Garcia to be the TASB Board of Director, Region 1, Position A, and a second from Mrs. Delgado. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 All opposed, the same sign. I assume I have to abstain from this one, so for the record, I abstain from the vote because it is for myself. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate the confidence and look to working with the TASB Board of Directors to bring more innovative thoughts and ideas to Mercedes ISD and to Region 1 collectively. Moving on to number 3, discussion of possible action to approve revisions to policy EIC Local Academic Achievement Class Ranking. Mrs. Venecia.
Administration is seeking approval based on the changes to the EIC local policy.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have any questions for the superintendent? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve from Mr. Rodriguez? Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye, all opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to consent agenda, I'm gonna start on my left. Mr. Howard, are there any items you'd like to pull, sir? Mr. Martinez? Mrs. Delgado?
No, sir, not.
Mr. Hernandez?
No, sir.
Mr. Rodriguez, are there any items you'd like to pull?
Yes, sir. A2, A3, A4, and A11.
And A11, okay. I do not have any items to pull myself. So can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda, excluding A2, 3, 4, and 11?
I so move.
We have a motion, Mr. Hernandez. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Howell. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to A2, Mr. Rodriguez.
Sir, on A2, I'm just asking for a brief overview of just how effective this program was, the Voyager Sopris, right?
Yes. Good evening, Ms. Venencia, Board President, Board members. I am Michelle Guerra, the 504 Coordinator for the district, and I can provide you with some of that information, Mr. Rodriguez. As far as an overview for Language Live, it's our dyslexia curriculum that we utilize for our dyslexia students who are in grades 6 through 12. And it's a two-part curriculum. The first part being completed through a computer program where the kids are individually tested, and based on their individual needs for their dyslexia services, then the program provides the instruction for them through the computer program. Secondly, it also has a student workbook that comes with it where the teacher can provide small group instruction for the students, and that's usually provided 45 minutes during a period.
It mentioned, Ms. Guerra, that in the comment section, that the creators of this program feel confident that students can gain 2 years' worth of growth in 1 year. Is that what the
Right.
district is expecting?
So that was literature based on the research of the program, and we have seen some improvement with the 2 years in our district, where the campuses have been utilizing the program. It's been with us for 3 years. So with that in mind, where you have campuses that have had no changes to dyslexia teachers implementing that program, you do actually see the growth with that. Some of our other campuses in our district have had changes with new teachers coming on board and being that new dyslexia teacher. So we didn't see that 2-year growth like we would have wanted to. However, when I met with the rep at the end of the school year, we kind of looked at some of the data and looked at some of the needs. So we do have an action plan that we set in place already where we do want to train teachers on certain areas that we saw that were in need.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? You have a recommendation to approve?
Yes, I have a recommendation for approval.
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Rodriguez, and a second, Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. A3, Mr. Rodriguez.
Similarly, on this program, the Amplify Education, just how was it used this past year, and what was the impact on the student growth?
So this past year, we started Amplify January 26th, so we had about 5 weeks before we actually took a benchmark. So there's not enough evidence there to show that there was any impact on the growth. However, since then, we have had 5 Amplify trainings, along with the initial one that happened in November. We've also dissected both the TE, the student workbooks, the online, and then the online scope and sequence for the teachers. We've identified where we need to stop and actually differentiate for our students, and that's actually going in there and flagging them, and they get different lexile in the reading, same reading assignment, but just a different lexile or different questionings.
And so hopefully this coming school year, after having half a year experience with it, teachers feel a bit more comfortable and can hopefully deliver.
Yes, and we're starting from Unit A, where in the past we started at Unit C, so it was right in the middle of it. And we are starting K through 5, so they're working through the initial, and we're trying to share the experiences that we've been going through with them.
Okay, so what grade levels are we targeting again with the Amplify?
K through 8.
Okay, all right. Thank
And
you.
actually, Region 1 is going to be working with us on the materials internalization alignment. So our school administrators will be able to build those PLCs around just that Amplify.
Okay, great.
And then we're also getting the support for K through 5 for Amplify.
Okay, Great,
through Ed Direction.
thank you.
So, we have a recommendation from the superintendent.
Yes, recommendation is for approval.
We have a recommendation, do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion, Mr. Rodriguez, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Delgado, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. A4, discussion and possible action to approve renewal of purchasing NWEA, a division of the Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, and Map Growth licenses for Mercedes ISD students in grades K through 12 for the 24-25 school year. Mr. Rodriguez.
I know this program was adopted this past school year, or approved rather, the map testing and so forth. I know that at the previous board meeting, board member, Mr. Hernandez, asked about the teacher incentive allotment. Once again, his comment a little while ago probably could tie in very well to that, in terms of the teachers that we know are doing well and moving their kids up and they're showing growth, despite what the overall campus may or district. But the question I have is, were any adjustments made to this? What was the impact of the map testing? I know it's 1 year, but we're gonna continue this coming school year, more than likely with it. Were there any adjustments to the TIA tied to this made?
So the adjustments that were made is we added K through pre-K through
Okay.
K, yeah.
So what we did was we added pre-K into the, I guess, the equation. So we're gonna now use circle data, which we had shared with you in June, and then as well as kinder and going up.
So
we
that'll
did add
tie the
that.
fluency of the early
Yeah,
one?
all the
young-
different
young-
components of the circle
Okay.
test, yes,
Okay.
but for reading and math.
We also included social studies and US history into the mix. So the higher number that we have, then it kind of averages out. We are using the map, and then along with the map, we also do have the IXL. So it ties the student's plan directly to IXL, and then we can go from there. And the recommended time is 45 minutes a week, and it's already being planned into the day.
And we got it for all the 4 content areas, the IXL, and it's pre-K through 12.
And is this adjustment, Texas Tech has to look at it or anything like that, or we're just?
It's
doing
already
that?
been approved.
Oh, been approved, great,
Mhm.
awesome. Good, so hopefully we'll get those teachers rewarded, right, that have that student
Yes.
growth.
Any other questions?
So I think just to clarify, the submission that we're doing this year is still based off of the old plan. So it's still based off of STAR, so we won't see this until the following
25,
year.
26.
We have a recommendation?
Yes, recommendation is for approval.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So move.
A motion from Mr. Rodriguez, do I have a second? Second from Ms. Martinez, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, the same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to A11, discussion of possible action to approve the Texas Instructional Leadership Proposal Effective Schools Framework Focus Grant Focus Support Grant 24-25 between Region 1 ESC TIL Office and Mercedes ISD. Mr. Rodriguez.
Ladies, I think both of you, or I know for sure, Ms. De La Fuente mentioned the Effective Schools Framework and their discussion earlier in this meeting regarding plans for this coming school year. The question I have is, what were some of the takeaways from this past year implementing the ESF? And could you discuss the weekly data meetings that are supposed to be had using the SINIDI, the See It, name it, do it model?
So this year we did the See It, Name It, Do It, but we did it for teacher observation and feedback. So the administrators would go in, identify an area, whether it be management or rigor, based on the Get Better Faster by Santoyo. And they would work directly with that teacher just on that one element. They would have the teacher run through the lesson prior to, and then they would follow up with another visit. So that is the See It, Name It, Do It that we did do this year. It's something that we're gonna continue last year. I think that the biggest takeaway is we have to be uncomfortable hearing the conversations. It's not, I got you, or it's not, you're doing it wrong. It's how can we do it better? And that's how we have to tackle these conversations. And I think the more we go in there, the easier it's going to be. We did see a big difference at one of the middle schools where the teacher was a little bit defensive on the first conversation, but by the end of the year, they were coming for the feedback. As far as the weekly assessments, we are not doing weekly assessments this year. After looking at both Carnegie and Amplify, it is easier to do the 3-week assessment because it falls in line with the curriculum. And they are going to be online on DMAC, so that makes it a little bit easier to grab the questions from. The teachers are having input from it, and then we're directly going to a tracker where we're going to look at the teacher goals. We're going to see where each student fell and how we can move them forward for the next assessment. We're also going to be looking at the DMAC reports. So DMAC is kind of putting it back in the hands of the teacher where they weren't very comfortable using Eduphoria. And it's going to specify exactly what those students need. So before we were trying to do it on our own, so it took a little bit longer to get through, and this time it's actually going to be there at the push of a button.
And then we just approved it in consent. Okay, the DMAC, okay. All right, thank you.
I have a recommendation. Administration is seeking approval.
We have a recommendation from the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Rodriguez. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Martinez. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to executive session A, personnel pursuant to section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code and attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. 1, resignations, terminations, appointments, evaluations, reassignments, duties, and discipline of professional, paraprofessional, and non-contract employees, teacher substitutes and substitutes for maintenance, transportation, and cafeteria department. B, student discipline pursuant to section 551.082 and 551.0821 of the Texas Government Code, personally identifiable information about a public school student. C, discussion and private consultation with the attorney regarding pending or contemplated litigation, settlement matters and/or matters where the professional duty under state bar requires private consultation with a school attorney. 1, discussion and consideration of pending matter docket number 180-LH-06-2024 Mercedes Independent School District versus Maria J. Chavez before the Board of Trustees, the state of Texas. The time is now 9:25 and this board is in executive session.